Matt now, who is an apartment owner at Xenix Apartments. And he has been the project champion for the solar for common areas project that was installed recently. So, Matt, welcome.
Thank you. Am I coming through okay, audio-wise?
Yes, we can hear you
Wonderful,
perfectly. So
wonderful.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm going to start by asking you, same as Janet, tell us a little bit about your building.
No, certainly. So Xenix was built in the early 2000s, and as you can kind of see in this photo, is quite a large, kind of complex. Many kind of refer to it as, a mini kind of resort with a number of buildings, the big tower, but also pool and various other amenities as well. So as you can imagine, for us, power consumption was quite significant. Um, but also we're an advantage where we had a significant amount of roof space as well. So yeah, I think about 227 apartments. But yeah, we were spending probably over 100 grand a year on common area power. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And your solar was installed, I think, late last year, was it?
Yes, just in
So
time for summer.
yeah, perfect. So what initially prompted the discussion about solar and when did that conversation first start and who was involved in that?
Yeah, so I think going back a few years ago now, it probably was 2 or 3 years ago, I bought into the building maybe 4 years ago, and then for a year in joined the strata committee uh, in the event. Speaking to other kind of residents, like hoping to try and get solar in the building. It's a kind of no-brainer. I think a few of us, at least as a committee, we kind of decided that above all, like safety is the most important thing for us. But there's a huge initiative for us around doing better for the environment, which not only helps us feel better about kind of how we habitate, but also for owners, renters, it's a very attractive thing to come to a building that is trying to be greener and more environmentally friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how did you kind of first start out in figuring out whether solar was even viable for your
Mm.
building?
Yeah, so I think we do have an electrician in the building that kind of does a lot of stuff. So he had some background. He was kind of like, yep, you know, didn't say no to anything going on. But from memory, and again, it goes back a long time, I believe we did involve or leverage some grants from the City of Sydney to do a feasibility study. So getting a consultant in to kind of review things and understand, okay, well, how much roof space do we have? What's possible? How much power are we using? In particular, what times of the day? Because as you can imagine, when the sun's shining, we can benefit from it. But if our power consumption is at night time, well, maybe the investment in solar is not the right thing. Maybe it's batteries or something else. So, yeah, so initially a feasibility study, getting someone in to do that. Um, and they kind of quickly turned around to say, yeah, like it's what it eventually came to being was a no-brainer for us.
Yeah, amazing. So I know there are a number of questions that were sent to us before this webinar even commenced today about what is the best strategy for these projects to get across the line with the OCs. So,
Yeah.
I imagine you used the sustainability infrastructure resolution that James spoke about, but were there kind of any, I guess, soft skills or things like that that you used to really drive that home?
I think framing it as an investment, right? I think a lot of, as a strata committee, we're so used to kind of coming to, hey, we've got all these maintenance bills, or we need to do this, that, whatever, and it's always a cost. I think framing solar was actually saying, well, no, this is actually the opposite. This actually is an investment. So really coming with hard, kind of certain validated figures to kind of say, look, we're going to spend, for argument's sake, let's say we spend 100 grand, and that's going to save us 25 grand a year on power. Um, After 4 years, we've literally paid it back. And then for the next 20 years or so of the life cycle of that system, we're continuing to save that. So kind of projecting that out there. So I think, yeah, framing is investment and coming together with the figures because, for many owners, that's the majority of owners, they do care about the dollars. It's all well and good to be environmentally friendly, and that's a nice thing to have. Um, but if it's not going to be, cost positive, then you'll kind of be quickly dismissed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine that the feasibility assessment that you had done initially that also outlined the business case for solar. So you had those
Yeah,
figures to
certainly.
hand. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. And where it kind of led to from there, and I'm not jumping ahead too far, but was it actually getting another kind of independent consultant to oversee a tender process. So he kind of helped, each of the vendors that quoted for the work, they did provide their own kind of costings and potential business cases, and they were varying from realistic to very opportunistic. So again, having someone to oversee that and kind of, call the bluff and be quite clear was also quite helpful to know that yes, these figures are actually could be backed up as well.
Yeah, amazing. And did you encounter any kind of unexpected stumbling blocks along the way, or was it quite straightforward, would you say?
Uh, it was actually kind of funny. Uh, we started this years ago, and if I wish, then you know, like many other buildings, we're not getting too crazy. There's always maintenance going on, and I think the biggest stumbling block for us, which caused so much delay in just getting on with it, was we felt that it was a project that would get in the way of us maintaining other parts of the building, whether it's fixing a leak, whether it's improving the common facilities. We so this feeling unwarranted that embarking on a project like solar was going to be distraction and was going to be too much for us. Um, when it kind of came down to it, again, by having an expert oversee a tender process and rounds of best and final offers and negotiations, uh, it actually removed a lot of the burden from the owners or from the strata committee, um, but also kind of meant that yeah, we can't just get on with it as well. To the point where I remember the day, and I wish, apologies, I've been crazy this week. I had photos of, we signed a contract, and all of a sudden, in a couple of weeks' time or a few weeks' time, we had this crane dropping in 580 solar panels to our kind of front area. And before we knew it, the roof was covered in solar and the system was online.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
Mm.
Amazing. And so, I mean, how has the project been received by residents and potentially prospective buyers or renters at Xenix Apartments?
Yeah, I mean, really positively. I think everyone who's part of it. Again, it wasn't just myself. There was a number of the strike committee involved and everyone else. I think we all feel, naturally we feel good about it. Um, at the same time, the treasurer also feels great because he's seen already a significant drop in our power consumption bills. So that really helps us from an operating expenditure perspective, to balance the budget well for us, and it kind of gives us some flexibility there. Um, can't say too much to kind of prospective buyers and renters, apart from to say that we've had some great sales in the building. I was able, and unfortunately, sadly, I've actually just moved out of Xenix this week. Um, but I was able to rent my house out quite quickly. So perhaps that's another sign that yes, it is having the right effect. People want to be there. It's a very active building, so yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And we did just have the slide, which shows a 41% reduction in
Mm,
energy or electricity use between December 2021 on that yellow line and that same time period in 2024. And that's
mm.
specifically due to solar. So that is also just incredible. And I'm sure, yeah, like you said, the treasurer is quite pleased with that, but others in the building must be as well. So,
Yeah,
um,
definitely.
and what kind of advice would you have for other apartment buildings who are looking to do something similar to their high-rise building, for instance?
Uh, just don't wait. I think there are so many grants available with yourselves and advice and people you can speak to. I think, yeah, speak to City of Sydney, speak to other buildings that have done it before, get their opinions, get the recommendations for consultants and others, and kind of come in. Um, so I think, leveraging that, the financial backing from government grants, and get on with it really, because, for us, you know, every month we delayed, that was cost savings we were putting off. And I think some of the grants we were looking at also was diminishing by the
Mm.
year as well. So, um, like anything, there's no better time. And I think we're in a good position right now where solar technology is in a great spot where, it wasn't like a few years ago when it was rapidly catching up. It's to the point now where it's quite stable and it's quite cost effective. So, almost a no-brainer.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I might open up to the audience for any questions that they might have. Ailsa, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I've got plenty of questions of my own that I'd love to have answered as well.
I think just summarizing what's been happening in the chat. So people asking for recommended suppliers or consultants. As a council, we can't recommend those things. I have put a link in some of my answers to a case studies page. If there's a building that you know you're interested in understanding what they're doing or it's similar to your building, please reach out to us and we're more than happy to put you directly in touch with that building and they can answer any questions that you may have. But other than that, I can't see any more open questions, Nikki, that haven't already been answered. So if you've got a
Yeah,
couple
okay.
more up your sleeve, fire away.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've got a metal roof, and
Yes.
so I imagine that there weren't quite so many concerns around waterproofing as it relates to the installation of the solar panels themselves. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think this is again the advantage of having a good person overseeing the delivery and also getting a good vendor to do the installation. When they went, I think in lead up to the installation, they did go through and do a full audit across the roofing structure to look for any cracks, creases, etc., and mark them and repair them prior to the state. Um, but
Yeah,
then,
great.
yeah, from there, it's a matter of just following, well, in the lovely world of Australia, given some building practices, just again ensuring you have good builders that are doing things properly and following the relevant building codes so that those things aren't a concern.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned in your story that you had these panels delivered in kind of the courtyard area, and then bam, they were on the roof. And the crane had lifted them into the proper area. I mean, were there any concerns originally about physically locating the solar panels on the roof, or was there kind of already sufficient access and stuff like that?
Yeah, so one thing in particular we had to cross-check was around we have you may kind of see there like the on the right side there we do have the occasional app sale that comes down for window cleaning. So we did to make sure that we provide a sufficient boundary space for them to hit the anchor points, etc. So um, if you do have that kind of scenario, again, work with whoever you use for your cleaning slash roofing stuff to make sure they're happy with it. Because the last thing you want to do is put a solar panel over their anchor points and they come around saying, well, sorry, we can't do anything.
Yeah, yeah,
But I'd say that's
absolutely.
probably the main one. Aside from that, it was pretty fine to be honest. We were able to fit kind of the max. I think it was at 99.84 kilowatts on the roof, um, and
Yeah, and
all
that's
those. Yeah,
yeah, that's before triggering any sort of council approval that's necessary because it's kind of an exempt development, isn't it, before that?
yeah, definitely, definitely.
We do have one question in the chat at the moment. So the question is from Darren who asks, did the OCs revisit their capital works plan modeling and did it significantly increase contributions to those plans?
Uh, for a building of our size, solar the cost of solar was more or less a rounding error in terms of our capital works budgets. So the best of my knowledge, I think the answer is no, just because the business case stacked up so well, it was kind of like, well, this is we were spending the money anyway, so yeah, it was fine for us. But we're kind of lucky. We are a huge building, so we had quite a lot of capital works funds available for us and a pretty robust plan. And so, over that time period, yes, we were spending more money now, but in, let's say, a 10-year period, it would all kind of balance itself out.